Good morning. It's Laura Rorick from Foot Care Extraordinaire YouTube channel, and I'm following up from the last YouTube, which I did on some of the history of through my eyes of foot care in the United States. And I wanted to make one correction. My friend Sue Bumpus, who is a colleague, fellow foot care nurse, well, she's retired now, but she let me know that Teresa Kelachai didn't go to the University of Charleston. It was the Medical University of South Carolina. So that's where my mentor, so just a little correction to the last YouTube I did. But this morning I'm going to talk just a little bit about starting a business because I said I would and I thought I better follow through. So I'll tell you what I did and then I'll tell you, having done that, what you might want to consider as options. So when I started out, it was 1994. I think I said, well, okay, if I'm going to start a business, I need a bank account. So I went to the bank and I said, I'm going to start a business. I need to start a checking account. And they go, oh, do you have your fictitious business name? And I didn't at that time. So anyway, the bank told me I needed to have actually a business license and a fictitious business name. So those are the two things that you're going to want to consider first is getting your business license so you can start your bank account, a fictitious business license if you want a name other than yourself. If I used the Foot Care Nurse, that was my brilliant name back then. And if you were going to just use your name, Laura Rorick, then you don't have to do a fictitious name. And this is for the US. I don't know how it is in other countries. So those are two things to look at. And then, of course, you're going to want to consider what your structure is. I did a sole proprietorship. Last year, I changed it to a limited liability company, and I'm changing it back to sole proprietorship. So it really depends on what your needs are. If you're simple, you're on your own, a sole proprietorship is the way to go. If you really plan to have some huge, extraordinary business and do lots of retail and, have employees and things like that, you might want to look into a limited liability company. And another agency you might want to check into is one called SCORE, SCORE, which is Service Corps of Retired Executives. And they're everywhere. They might be international, but in the United States, they're pretty much everywhere. You can just look up, find a local one, and make an appointment. It is free business advice. They kind of pair you up with somebody who have some similarities with what you're doing, you can meet with them and they can give you advice too. So that's kind of fun. I did that for the first year or two. I had a consultant. And one of the first things they tell you to do is to get a business lawyer, to talk to a lawyer about your business and have a business plan. Well, I didn't do either one of those. My business plan was having no business plan because I was so new to what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going. So I just did it day to day. And honestly, a business plan for me would have been a waste of time because every week it changed. So those are some things to consider. Going to SCORE, getting a fictitious name, getting your business bank account, which also requires you, to get the business license. And then you have to go to the zoning department, depending on where you're holding your business out of. So what you could do too is go to the local junior college and take a class on how to start a business. So then you need malpractice insurance, and I use Nursing Service Organization. I think I pay $100 a year for $3 million worth of malpractice. If you have an office, you need general liability insurance. And I do that. I go through Farmers and I have that. So even if I don't have an office, say I'm at somebody's home and I knock into their lamp and it hits them on the head and they want to sue me or something, that's handled under general liability as opposed to malpractice. So I think the big question is to have an office or not have an office. And one of my problems looking back is that I had like far too many offices. I was a gypsy. I was moving all the time. And my first office, I had a room with a neurologist. He had an extra exam room and he was a friend and he rented it to me. And that was a real easy way to do it if you want to have an office, is get somebody else who's got the lease. Don't get into long-term leases or big expenses, see if you can rent an exam room from an existing business would be one way to go. If you're doing home visits, you really don't need an office unless you don't have a place at your house where you can do the sterilization and keep all your business supplies. And one of the worst decisions I ever made, I kind of was forced into it, is I had an upstairs office with no elevator. And so for a foot care nurse, that was pretty bizarre and not very effective. I had had a downstairs office and I let the lease lapse and I thought I would just go month to month. So, and I never thought about it. The business next door downstairs, because I had no lease, went to the landlord and said, I want her office. And he leased it out from underneath me, which I was really upset about for a while. And then I realized this is what happens in business. So there was a room upstairs and I moved upstairs. I currently have a very funky kind of storage office. I don't see clients there. I have my equipment and it's just more of a storage office, and that's near my house, and that's what I'm doing right now. So there are many ways to go. I also at one point had an office and an employee, and I had like 400 clients. And when it took me a year to figure out that by the time I paid the employee, paid the rent, paid all my expenses, I might as well not have been working because I did a lot of home care at that point too. So you got to look at all those considerations, and nurses are not schooled, or most of us aren't anyway, with a business background. I certainly wasn't. But so I just learned really in a chaotic manner, which was sort of fun, and it's just the way it was. So those are some tips about starting a business. I would recommend, if you legally can sell products. I know some of the nurses in Canada can't sell, like if they were to make their own foot salves or something, they couldn't sell it. But if you can sell products and you have a business mind to do that, you could be like a hairdresser sells shampoos and conditioners and brushes and combs and everything. You could sell everything that goes along with foot care, which would be a great benefit for your patients. I just never could do it. I can't keep inventory. I'm just terrible with bookkeeping and that sort of thing. So it didn't work out for me, but it might for you, and I would suggest that. The other business consideration, I had it. What was it? With your car, really look into, keeping records of your mileage. I really don't know what my bookkeeper does. I have a bookkeeper and I give her my records every couple months. She adjusts my bank accounts and does whatever. And I write off my car payment as a business expense. And what she does with that, where she puts it, I don't know. But I know a lot of people keep tedious records on their mileage. That's just another thing that I'm just incapable of doing. So you have to know yourself. You have to know what you like doing. Don't make yourself do something, even if it's for the money, and you can make a lot of money selling things. If that's not something that's going to bring you pleasure or that you're not good at, don't do it. I really believe that you just need to have as much fun as possible, make it as flexible as possible, but do get a bookkeeper. And I use QuickBooks. I think that's my last tip to tell you. I use the QuickBooks, so I do the billing. I'm not always great at keeping track of who's paid and who hasn't, but that's my own personal thing. I just have issues with that. Anyway, so that's some stuff on starting a business. And if you have any particular comments, put them in the comments field. And when you do that, or if you do that, I love to know if you are an RN, if you're an LPN, where do you live? I love to know a little bit about you. Some people have made comments to me, and then I've responded, are you a nail tech? Are you an RN? And then somebody else kind of got into that conversation thinking I was being snarky, and I'm not being, I just would like to know who I'm talking to. And if you have specific comments that can be addressed quickly through YouTube, I'm not doing consulting. I'm not taking emails, about this kind of stuff, but do put something in the comment field. Okay, take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.